my Lucky Charm popped up on the feed. I just want to put that out there. Yeah, they know who they are. They know who they are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Man.
sir. So this is part two
Yeah.
of the conversation with Tim McKain, where I've interviewed Craig Scott, actor, former BLA practitioner, co-founder of Muscles. We had to do a part two on it. How you doing, Craig?
I'm all right, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah.
So today, specifically for our interview, I really wanted to dive deep into your Instagram and your platform and the creation of Finding Meek Mill, which is, for the people who don't know, is kind of like these 2 to 3 minute clips where Craig Scott is talking about the short film that he's doing and trying to find a song for his short film. So, Craig, so what led to the idea of the creation of the Instagram account Finding Meek Mill?
Well, interesting enough, I had an opportunity not too long after I'd gotten out of prison to be featured in a short film called May I Tell You Something. And basically the film is about, it's a documentary, what they call like a poetic documentary form. And it's, the dialogue is based on interviews by the brothers who survived the 1971 Attica revolt. This was in Attica, New York. The prison conditions were, inhumane, deplorable, and they basically, they bucked on it, and the state of New York sent in troops, and there was, basically a massacre. So the brothers who survived it, of course, they did some interviews afterward, and the director and the writer of the script, Vanessa Lee, she put it together, and she basically compiled their interviews, and that would become the narration for the film, and I would provide that narration. So later, the director decided to actually include some footage of me in that film as well. Long story short, we made a trailer for that short film, and I wanted to add some music. And I was aware that Meek Mill was big on prison reform, and it is my opinion that the Attica Revolt was the incident that basically would be the catalyst to a call for prison reform in the United States. So I just thought that would be a perfect tie to have him and to use some music that he had produced. So I found one of his pieces called "Other Side of America." And Vanessa Lee, she incorporated it into the trailer, and it worked perfectly. So I said, listen, I've got, we got to get the clearance, we got to get the licensing to do this, let's go. Soon I would find out that that's not an easy thing to do. So, I was making calls, I was sending mail, and, just nothing was, coming from it. So I decided to document really the ups and downs and the difficulties of doing something just as simple as that, as being able to secure the rights for a film when you are an individual who, one, is, a returning citizen after 26 years in prison, or two, basically a nobody, unknown, don't have a bunch of money, don't have a bunch of contacts, so that I could, show the reality and the difficulties of going through it. But with those difficulties, there's also some ups, because I got to meet some extraordinary people like yourself, like Daniel Haitian Sensation, Edouard. So many people. Ime Alaquiva, Donna Marie Reed. These are very, very significant people. And if it weren't for me, basically taking this journey, I wouldn't have met them. So that was like a major highlight. Yeah. So I hope
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
So. Oh, it does. It does perfectly, actually. So, so you were in prison for 26 years. When you discovered that your term was almost finished, what were your plans? What plans did you have when you were going to go out, when you were going to come out of prison onto to society?
Well, interestingly enough, because my original sentence was 52 years. So I was, like I said, I was in the 25th, 24th, maybe the 23rd year of my sentence. And honestly, I didn't really have anything concrete in mind to do because I wasn't even expecting to get out anytime soon. So it wasn't until an old friend of mine got back in contact with me. And through talking with her, she pretty much like reminded me, like, listen, man, you've got a gift when it comes to acting and theater. And, you know, this is something I think you should do. So once, you know, she brought that up to me, I was like, you know what, that's where I should put my focus. So that was just a general thing that, you know, if and when I get out, I'm going to try to get back into acting and things of this sort. Donald Trump becomes the president and laws get changed just out of the blue, unexpectedly. So I filed some motions, and luckily for us, we had a judge who was, her name is Blake, Catherine Blake. I want to give a shout out to Judge Blake. She was basically already, she was dissatisfied with the sentence that we had. You know, first time offenders, no one got hurt. You know, this is just overkill, 52 years. So she was very open to, giving us that early release. And that's how I was basically able to get out.
That's amazing. I want to, going back in time, for that specific date when you found out that you were going to go to prison for 52 years, just take us back mentally and emotionally. What was that day like?
Well, I'm going to tell you, honestly, and I'm just going to keep it real. The prosecutors were crut ball. I mean, basically, they always knew that the possible sentence that we could be exposed to was 52 years, but they never said it. I'm going to tell you when I found out that I was looking at 52 years. After we were convicted and we were waiting to be sentenced, my co-defendant or co-conspirator, if you will, the person who was also charged with me, he sends me what they call a kite, which is a note passed between, prisoners. He sends me a kite and tells me, hey, man, they talking about giving us 52 years. Like, where the hell did this come from? You know what I mean? So, that in of itself was was a mind trip. I didn't even really believe him when he said it. But when we got to court and we basically found out that they had this draconian law, it's called 924C, and basically this is they were able to give you what they call stacking. They would just double charge you, triple charge you for committing what they call a crime of violence with a firearm. And basically, we were convicted for 3 bank robberies. All 3 bank robberies carried like 12 years sentence. But the 924C was 40 years alone. 40 years.
Wow.
And of course, they didn't let us know that this is that we were facing. So it was real diabolical, real diabolical. But that had a lot to do with the fact that, we were politically active. We were doing a whole lot of things in the community that, and frankly, the government just didn't want to have happen. So, that was another motivating factor. Yeah.
I got you. So during your time in prison, and what were some of the struggles that you had to face and ultimately overcome, knowing that you would have been there for 52 years?
Well, the first obstacle, of course, now you have to remember this is 1994 in Baltimore City. At that time, when you were locked up, they would send you to what they call Baltimore City Jail. Now, let me tell you, some people have heard of like Rikers Island and Sing Sing and, real crazy places. Well, Baltimore City Jail was like that. I mean, you talking about high security penitentiary style prison So the first thing that I had to deal with was just the violence, the degree of violence that was going on in that prison. And it wasn't just because there were fights or there were stabbings, but they just seemed so senseless. I just couldn't wrap my head around like, okay, hold on, why is this popping off like every other day? You know what I mean? So I also, first time coming in, you're going to be tested. So, I myself had to deal with being basically assaulted, stabbed, had to get, was into a confrontation where I had to, basically, I was literally fighting two guys with what they call shanks. These are, homemade knives, if you will. So, the violence was basically the very first thing that I had to kind of attune myself to. After adjusting to that, the next thing was the mornings. The worst part of my sentence or bit, this is the, lingo that we use. The worst part of the bit was waking up in the morning. I mean, it was, oh my God, I'm still in jail every day, every day. So, having to just work that psychological game out was a challenge. It was, very high. I don't know how it did it. People ask me how it did, I don't know. So the first thing I've got to do is give God the glory, give God the credit, the universe, the whatever you want to call it, but it was something beyond just me. You know what I'm saying? Because it's literally designed to drive you crazy if it doesn't outright physically kill you. So yeah, those, that's basically what it was, some of the things I had to deal with.
Wow, I got you. And how did you ultimately overcome? You said it was through God that
Yeah,
helps you
yeah.
overcome those
Well,
things.
listen, I was a traveler when it comes to spirituality. I've studied it all. You name it, I've studied it. Hinduism, Buddhism, uh, Shinto, Islam, Christianity, Catholicism. Listen, you name it. I've sweated with the natives in the sweat lodge. So because I think instinctually I understood that it was going to take a certain degree of spiritual fortitude in order to make it through.
Mm.
And I think because I was constantly, on that journey, I kept focused on developing my spirituality. That's what really got me through. So prayers, sacrifice, rituals, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? It just it took things like that in order to keep me going. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now that you're out of prison and into society, how do you plan to use your voice, your platform to not only share your story, but also continue to fight for justice, not only
Mhm.
for African Americans, but also potentially for prison reform?
Right, exactly. Well, that's another reason why I'm really, really passionate about trying to get Meek Mill on board with this short film, because it's about the very root of the prison reform movement. And I think, with him, coming on board, just, with some support, that will bring more eyes, to the particular project that we're working on, but will also give some historic context to
Mm.
what was the root of prison reform. Um, I can't tell you how many times when I was incarcerated and the administration would want to take certain things that they would call privileges,
Mm.
microwaves, certain foods, fruits, medical attention free, because we used to be able to get it free, but then they started charging us, for it. So every time they would do these things and take these so-called privileges away, I would hear a lot of my fellow inmates or convicts, whatever you want to call them, say things like, "Oh, well, I don't need that. I don't need that particular thing. It don't make no big difference, big deal to me." And I would have to constantly remind them and say, "Bro, you're missing the point. It's not
Mm.
about whether or not you can do without these things. It's about the price that was paid in order for you to get these things. Men literally were
Wow.
killed so you could have weights, microwaves, humane treatment, time outside of your cell. Men literally were physically killed for that. And for you to just sit back and just, let it go. No. So that's the sort of attention, and that's the point of that short film is to to remind people what prison reform, what is the root of prison reform, and it's real people's sacrifice. You know what I mean? So that's the main project that I'm working on, right now. And I'm hoping that with my Instagram documentary, Finding Meek Mill, that I will, you know, gather some attention and gather some interest in in that project. So that's mainly the main thing that I'm focused on right now. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sorry
Yes,
if I
sir.
got a little
So
too hype right there.
no, that was good. Hey, passion is
Yeah.
passion is great. Passion is great. We
Yeah.
need that for real. What's a few things you would if you had to mentor some kids who were also passionate about acting, directing, but also in activism? What are some of the things that you would tell them about how to operate in those spaces and how to work in those spaces?
My main thing, my main concentration, especially when people talk about mentoring, is teaching the need for self-discipline, emotional discipline, emotional control, because that is what messed me up. Listen, man, I was, at the drop of a dime, man, anger was an easy emotion for me to, get into. And, the root of that anger was basically a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and not knowing how to control that and how to deal with that. So that's, to me, that's the number one magic. If you can pull that off, if you can learn how to control your emotion, you are going to be able to get around a lot of problems. You're going to be able to duck a lot of, obstacles and basically get through. So that's the first thing that I really want to impress upon anybody, old or young. You've got to learn the philosophies, the tricks, if you will, that are key to disciplining your emotion. So that's my biggest thing that I try to focus on for myself and
Yes,
others.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What was your first love, acting or activism?
Well, acting, of course, and it was a love that I, accidentally stumbled upon. Love at first sight, if you will. It was a talent that I didn't even know I had. Previous interview, I talked about how I came into acting, and when I started down that road and I began to learn the techniques that I learned from in high school at the Baltimore School for the Arts and then later at Boston University School for the Arts. Listen, man, I'm pretty damn good. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty damn good. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know that. I had no idea that I, possessed that type of potential. So that was absolutely my first love. But through the various plays and projects that I was doing, that's what sparked my activism. I became more aware of political and historical events and political and historical forces that were at play in society. And I wanted to use my talent, my extraordinary talent and gift for acting to address a lot of those issues. So that's how one thing, led to another. One lady led me to another. You know what I mean? So, but the first love was definitely acting and theater.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, would you ever make a movie about your own situation, your own story? Is that a
Oh man,
goal
I would
potentially
sure.
for
I
you?
would. I would love to do that. As a matter of fact, there's some brothers connected with a group called The Truth About Tupac. They've talked to me about my story. There's a brother I'm talking to, William Wolf. He's also talking to me about possibly doing a story of my life as a film. So, there's individuals who have brought that to me as a possible thing to do. And of course, I would be more than open to do it. But we got to sit down and get it done. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So you know what
Yes,
I mean.
sir.
So, but yeah, I definitely would love to do that because looking back, I didn't realize how much stuff I've done. I've done a lot. You know what I mean? I've done a lot. So it's definitely a lot of moving material there. Yeah, of course.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we gotta do some more of these. We're gonna definitely
Oh,
do some
definitely,
more of
definitely,
these.
definitely.
Yes, sir. The
Because look,
conversation.
because
Yeah.
let me show you just how much stuff. Because like this is our second interview, and I haven't
Mm-hmm.
even touched on my time in the Nation of Islam. with Louis
Mm-hmm.
Farrakhan and the new Black Panther Party. And I mean, listen, man, I was, I was oh, on my trip to Ghana and what happened to me after that. And I mean, listen, it's a
Yes,
lot.
sir. Yes, sir. You got a story to tell. You
Yeah,
got a
yeah, yeah.
story to tell. So the people need to listen. The people need to hear.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But
Yes, sir.
listen, I
Yes,
want
sir.
to thank you too for taking your time out to ask me these questions, and because a lot of these are thoughts that I've kind of tried not to think about, and move on about, and but you're bringing them back, and I need to address it definitely. So
Yes,
thank you
sir.
for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Craig. I appreciate you, brother. You
Hmm.
have an amazing day.
Yeah, you do the same.
Yes, sir. Make sure
Peace.
to follow. Make sure to follow Finding Meek Mill on
Yeah, on
Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah.
Finding Meek Mill.
Yeah.
All
Oh
right,
yeah. Plug
brother.
plug yourself. Tell the people where they can
Oh,
check you out.
McKain Entertainment Network
Yeah.
on
There you go.
Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
YouTube, all of that.
He interviews
Yes, sir.
everybody.
I try to. I try to. Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
All right,
That's all
brother.
right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Peace, peace.
Peace. Okay. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Those of you who did tune in. Um, yeah, I'm going to definitely try to do more of these now that I know how to do it. That's the other thing about coming out after doing 26 years of prison. You got to learn the technology. So I'm learning that, and I'm getting it. And I'll be back soon. And you heard it here first on Finding Meek Mill. Check me out.